Welcome to Sweethearts or Rivals. I'm Charla.
I'm Justin.
What are we doing today?
We are waxing philosophical.
About what topic?
About what makes a game good.
That could be different for a lot of people.
Yeah, strap in. This is a heavy topic.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yikes.
There's a lot
Okay.
to explore.
Well, we best get started.
The answer is, it's fun. Thanks for joining us.
That can't be the only answer.
No, not at all.
Because sometimes when you look at people playing games, they don't really look like they're having fun.
It's true.
Like they're just sitting there in concentration. It looks like they're more about like the competition than the fun.
Possibly. So, for me, it's how fun is it? That's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But even that has a lot to explore. What makes a game fun?
For me, it's how much it engages my imagination, I think.
There you go. So it could be fun or engagement or competition.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe how engaging a game is probably the answer. And for some people, that would be how fun it is.
How competitive is it? Or how fun is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and there's lots of different ways that a game can engage a person. There's lots of elements to a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a very large list of elements that some of these things are things that we talk about in our reviews all the time. Some of them are some elements that we haven't added to our reviews, but I'm starting to notice them a little bit more. So I think about them quite a bit more.
Right.
So figured I'd go through them, explain a little bit about what I think they are, and then we could chat about how much does that element engage you in a game.
Okay.
And then you guys can post which ones engage you in a game. That kind of thing.
Cool.
Sound good?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So the first one is long-term strategic planning.
That depends on the game.
Yeah.
Just because for me, sometimes I get so focused on my end-term strategy that I don't make smart tactical decisions to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. It also depends on the game. This by itself doesn't engage me. But it depending on the game can be great, and it can actually add to a game like Village. As soon as the port expansion came out and it gave you some short-term and long-term goals, it gave you a direction to go in right out of the gate, which I found made the game much better, and a lot of people have found that too. So
well, yeah, in a sandbox sort of game, it can be quite helpful.
Yeah.
Not that the Village is a sandbox sort of game, but
it kind of borders on it.
I mean, you can do anything to get get points.
Yeah. So it's good. So I would say, depending on the game, this is a somewhat important element of engagement, but by itself, not tremendously important.
Yes, probably a lot of them by themselves.
Yes, true.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
The next one is short-term adaptive tactics.
To get you to your strategic long-term goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this has a lot to do with the game changing every round and you having to change or adapt to what's happening either into the game or even adapting to what the players have done. Yeah.
Now for me, this one's tricky because if I'm presented with, say, more than 4 choices, it gets to be a little frustrating for me.
Yeah.
But if I have like 3 or 4 things to choose tactically which one's the best for me, I tend to really like that.
Yeah.
But like, say, Grand Austria Hotel, that would probably be a good example where the whole game is about those tactical short-term, what's the best thing for me to do right now? And you have like the dice 1 through 6 to look at how many dice there are, the cards that you can buy, how you're going to fill your orders. Like that gets a little bit, and maybe that's why I struggle with the game, because there's too many choices.
Well, it's because it's this fine balance between the tactical adaptation and the long-term goals that you have right out of the gate. Because this round, I really need to do this and this. But 4 dice rolled for this number, which means this is the best time to do this instead.
Yeah.
And then making those tough choices of which do you go with, your original plan or do you change it?
Right.
Yeah. Which is why I like the game.
Yeah.
It is tricky.
The game engages me, but I'm still not sure if I like it or
not. The other thing with short-term adaptive tactics is how often do you have to adapt? Because I know this is a criticism of 5 tribes. Since every single player's turn changes the layout of the entire board, you can't plan anything at all until it's your turn.
Can't, yeah.
And then you have to adapt super quick.
But I don't find an issue with that game. Like,
No.
I find it's easier for me to manage those tactics than the other game.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm thinking, well, I really want to do this action. There's a square with that action. Which meeples are going to let me get there?
Yeah.
Or I really want to pick up this color of meeples.
Yeah.
Where's the place that I can get the most of them?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sit there and analyze each square of that board every time it's my turn.
No.
No, I'm going to know what I want to do, and I'm going to find a way to do it. And if I can't do it, I'm going to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you had to analyze every single possible move, that would create a lot of AP, and then that game would get very frustrating.
It would. So for some people, they probably really hate that game.
Yeah.
But we like it.
Absolutely. It's awesome. The next element of a game would be game randomness. How much of the game is just random? And not randomness from people, but just the game itself being random. So a deck of cards being shuffled, that's random. Rolling dice for things, that's random. What is your take on randomness?
Well, there's certain games that I don't mind the randomness. Like, I can just seem to go with the flow of the randomness. But then other games kind of frustrate me. Like that game we played at Steam Park the other day. Yeah. It's like every time you pulled those customers out of the bag, you got all the customers you needed. Yeah. And like you were making money and money and money, and every time I pulled the customers, it was the wrong colors. Yeah. Even though I was putting tons of customers in the bag, I just wasn't getting any. And then of course, I didn't make any money the first half of the game, so there was no way for me to catch up with you. True. So that kind of randomness kind of cranks me a bit. But say in Machikoro, which is just a great big random fest. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of the game, really. Well, no, you probably there's strategy and tactics involved. But for me, I'm just riding the randomness wave, and I enjoy that sometimes. So I guess you just have to be in the right mood to play those kind of games. Yeah. For
a game of Steam Park, the first thing I did was I got 2 of the tents that let me pull from the bag and then throw them back in if it's not what I like. So it seemed like I was randomly getting exactly what I wanted.
It did, but you did get more pulls.
But it wasn't. Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. As for Machikoro, it's a random fest that I don't enjoy. Yeah. For me, randomness, if there's a little bit of randomness in the game, it means the game is going to keep you a little bit guessing and
keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, so there's going to be that tension there, which is important. But if it becomes too random, then you're not playing the game. You're just seeing what the game is going to do.
The game plays you.
Yeah. And that is no good at all. Yeah. At the end of the game, if I have won or lost, not because of any decisions I've made, but because the dice just did that, then that's a bunch of wasted time.
It's true.
Yeah, at least for me.
I like a little bit of randomness in my games.
Yeah. And I especially love games that the choice to do random stuff is a choice. So Lords of Vegas has a ton of dice chucking and random outcomes, but none of it...
You're choosing to do it to yourself.
Yeah, and you can always... It's all about playing the odds. Yeah. And a choice that you've made, which is awesome.
That's thematic to that game as well, because, I mean, what is Vegas rather than...
Gambling.
Right.
And it's all a huge gamble. Right. So that is an example of randomness done well.
But sometimes it could be frustrating in a game like Above and Below when you're taking your people on a mission. True. And you don't have a lot of rerolls in your village. Yeah. Then you're basically just,
hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's still a bit of a choice there. The only frustration in Above and Below that I have with the randomness is there's a choice of doing this thing or this thing. But you really have very little idea of what the outcome could be. In some cases, the outcome, like, do you steal from the old lady or go find some food for her? It's pretty obvious if you steal money from her, your reputation is going to go down. Right. And you're probably going to get money. But a lot of them is just random.
Those choices are all the pips you're going to have enough for. Yeah. Like, go find food could be like, I'll never get enough lanterns to go find food for her. Now I have to steal from her.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Like it's something you wouldn't choose.
True.
But you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer. So, for above and below, making sure that you are well prepared and have rerolls.
It's always, yeah.
Is really important before you choose to go on an adventure.
Right. And that's true in life. If you're going on an adventure, make sure you're well prepared.
There you go.
And it's true in your board games as well.
Moving on, the next thing, and this is something I've picked up and actually I've started to comment a little bit more on in our reviews and our impressions, and that is player chaos. And it seems like randomness, but it's not randomness that comes out of the game. It's the randomness or chaos that comes from the players taking their turns.
Yeah, the unpredictability of just your choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in a game like 5 Tribes, there's not a lot of randomness in the game, except in the setup.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of player chaos.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you can see what people are going to go for, and you can see if what you expect them to do is what they're going to do.
Which then adds in a little bit of social deduction.
A little bit, yeah.
Or prediction.
Right.
But then you got a game like Colt Express, when the whole game is about the player chaos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that game is good because of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it's interesting, like, it's a really good element that I enjoy if it's done correctly.
Right.
But it has to be done correctly. And in terms of how do you do it correctly, like Colt Express does it really, really well. You have a plan, and you can pull that plan off. And then when your plan goes horribly awry because of the player chaos, you have to be expecting that so that you can enjoy it.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. It's only fun if you go into the game knowing that that's a possibility.
Yeah. Probability.
Right.
But I have played that game with people that they want to do their plan and they do not want people to mess their plan up. And when their plan gets messed up, they do not enjoy it.
They flip the train.
Yeah.
Oh.
Almost had that happen the other day.
Yikes.
It's just like, and I was like, no, don't break the train. I enjoy player chaos if it's managed well. The next one would be theme and mechanism integration. And for me, this one's an important one.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what that basically means is that the theme isn't just pasted on. The theme informs what the mechanisms of the game are. So they reflect what you're doing. So if you're going to a shop to buy thread or cloth to make dresses, the mechanism on going to the shop makes some kind of thematic sense. And I think one of the reasons why the theme and mechanism integration is so important kind of goes into the next element that we were going to talk about, which is intuitive gameplay. If you have really good mechanism and theme integration, mechanically or mathematically speaking, in terms of is this going to get me points and win me the game, you might not know what the best thing to do is, but you might have an idea of what to do thematically.
Like the gallerist.
Yeah. The gallerist is a great example of that. Sometimes there are so many outcomes of what you're about to do that you're just like, you know what, I don't have any paintings or art in my gallery. I need art in my gallery because I'm a gallerist. So I'm going to go discover an artist to get it. Yeah. And it thematically makes sense, and then you realize, oh, that worked and got me points. Yeah.
And it is important that the theme and the mechanics blend, and you talked about pasted on themes. And sometimes you can have a pasted on theme and still the mechanisms and mechanics make sense to the theme.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just say pasted on because it could be any theme.
Yeah.
So it's tricky to know the difference between that kind of discussion, I think.
Yeah. It's a bit more of a...
I think I'm not articulating it very well, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. It could almost be like another waxing philosophical on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is a pasted on theme, and is it really pasted on? And that's how much a theme is pasted on is really kind of an opinion.
Yes.
Yeah, because there are games where people have complained it's just a pasted on theme that we find very thematic and enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you're right. It's a very personal choice.
Yeah.
If you're gonna label a theme pasted on.
Yeah, exactly. The reason why theme and mechanism integration is so important is, one, as we already talked about, intuitive gameplay, but also it draws me into the game.
Into the game.
Yeah.
So do I feel like a space cadet when I play Space Cadets?
Yeah.
I don't really know because I don't know what a Space Cadet feels like. Plus, I never played that game, but it just seemed like a good example.
Exactly. Like, do I feel like a Sky Pirate when I'm playing Sky Traders?
I kind of do.
There are mechanisms that if I do that action, absolutely, totally do. I'm dropping all that sludge
on that town, and I'm getting a wanted token, and now those people are going to be chasing me, and what am I going to... I don't care, I'm a Sky Pirate.
That's right. And I just made money.
Right.
Yeah. So, very important. That's definitely one of the elements of the game that is very important for me.
Me too.
All right, next. Intuitive gameplay, which we actually already just talked about a little bit. How intuitive are the rules? Or do you have to constantly go back and look up rules because you just don't know?
Right. Or you're thinking that this is how the rules should be because this is what I would do.
Yeah, it
but
would
then
make
when you
sense.
look up the rules, it's like, well, that's not how you play the game. I've been playing it wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
But that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one for me is quite important for how enjoyable and engaging a game is.
Well, I think for us, because we have so many games,
Yeah.
if the game does not play intuitively, and you have to relearn the game every time you take it off your shelf,
It's not coming off the shelf often.
not for us.
Nope.
Yeah.
Plus, where I have a background in role-playing games, and role-playing games are based off a foundation of there's never going to be a rule for every possibility because the possibilities are endless. So the core rules have to be intuitively understandable to extrapolate what to do in that particular situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes this gets us in trouble on the channel.
It kind of does.
Yeah, because we'll be playing and I'll intuitively make a judgment call and it will be wrong. And did I read the rule book? I skimmed it. I probably should have read it over again a little bit more clearly. Yeah. But when we're just playing like our groups and ourselves,
it's not a big deal.
No.
Which could be a whole nother waxing philosophical.
It totally could be.
Which we kind of did cover in like house rules and all that.
True.
But, yeah.
Yeah. But very important. If a game isn't intuitive, then I find the opposite of intuitive gameplay is that kind of fiddly.
Fiddliness.
It feels fiddly because I have to constantly look up rules that don't make intuitive sense.
And for you, that's a frustrating thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Okay.
Next one is social gaming. So things like bluffing, deduction, and negotiation, where a lot of the gameplay isn't on the board or in the game, but amongst the people. They're almost more of the game than the game.
Right.
Yeah. And a good example.
There's some games that really works for.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's games like that's basically all the mechanisms. They're not really my type of games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There needs to be a nice balance between how much is the game kind of running things and how much are the people running things.
And you had an example?
A good example of that would be Avalon.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good one because the people are running a lot of the things, but the game is also leading you on.
Right. Sometimes just because I'm shy, quiet, and I tend more towards being an introvert and like a few social phobias, these kind of games are really tricky for me.
Yeah.
But Avalon works for me somehow. I mean, it's not overwhelmingly social.
Yeah.
But because you're playing a character, I guess.
Yeah.
So there is that buffer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must be what it is.
Yeah. Whereas a game like... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's not a lot going on the table.
Yeah.
So, and it basically is all just trying to deduce.
Yeah. And I think you're right about that character. The fact that it starts off with you are a character and now you have a role to play, that gives you a direction.
Yeah.
And then the social aspect of it can help.
Right.
But you have a direction to focus it.
And it's making me think of Spyfall.
Yeah.
Because that was really reviewed really highly. But for us and the groups we play with, it really fell flat.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because we do generally game with like mostly shy and quiet kind of people.
Well, I think the problem with Spyfall for our groups was everybody was playing it in different ways.
Yeah, you're right about that too.
Yeah. Like it was almost like there wasn't enough of the game directing you. And there were so many different ways you could play that game.
Yes, and we never did develop that metagame
Yeah.
that people talked about in the game.
Yeah.
And there was that night we played with I think we were playing with 8 people.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to have played the game like 20 times.
Yeah.
But still, like...
Yeah, the metagame never came out.
No.
Everybody continued to play it in their own little unique way. That never really meshed. And I mean, people had fun, but at the same time, it wasn't...
Yeah.
It didn't call me back to it.
Right. And a game with bluffing that I'd really like to try, that I haven't tried.
Yep.
But I think Sheriff of Nottingham would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
I think that kind of bluffing is more the bluffing that I would want to play.
Yeah, that gives you a very clear direction of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yeah, that would make sense.
And you're still kind of a character.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of game, I think, there as well.
Yeah. You'll have to try that one.
I'd love to try that one.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
We'll see. Next, we only have a few more. The next one is mechanism complexity. How complex are the rules of the game?
Well, that's going to depend heavily from person to person.
Yeah. And I think we tend to go for games that are kind of like that midweight and maybe a little heavier midweight.
Yeah.
But it also depends on a lot of other things, like how intuitive are the rules. Because if they're really intuitive, the complexity can be higher. If they're not intuitive, the complexity needs to be low.
Right.
Yeah. So, kind of in there, it's important, but not super important. And then there are some games like Karuba that are not complex in any way, shape, or form.
But there's a lot more game in that little box than what you think.
Yeah. A lot of hidden depths in that game.
Yeah.
In what is a deceptively simple looking game.
Right. There's some finesse that goes on in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the next one is length of gameplay. I can play a long game and enjoy it. But because we have so many games, and I want to, when I have the opportunity to sit down and play games, I want to play as many as I can. I like games that are a little shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But games that are too short are also not good, because then there's no time to get invested in the game.
Right. There's no rivalry that gets brewed up when you're playing a real short game.
That's right.
And sometimes that's a lot of fun. Like, I don't know if it's on your list, but not necessarily conflict or anything, but just, I don't know, competitiveness.
Competitiveness? Yeah. Yeah. I think the length of the gameplay has a real strong influence on how competitive a game can get. Yeah.
Well, it does depend on how much time you invest working on one certain thing, and you finally get there, or you're almost there, and they block you. Yeah.
Or the game ends and you didn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of makes it a good game.
Yeah. So kind of like the complexity of the mechanisms, length of gameplay, we're kind of in that middle spot, which is good. The next one is very, very important, and it's something that we have recently discovered how important this is to how much fun I'm going to, or engaged I am in the game.
Oh my goodness, what is it?
The narrative.
Yeah, the narrative.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily does the game serve you a narrative, because that actually can a lot of the time turn me off of a game.
But a game that as you're playing develops a story in your own mind.
Yeah.
And you're not necessarily saying it out loud.
No.
But all of a sudden this game has become a story for these characters that you're playing with.
Yeah. It's become this narrative experience that I won't remember who won that game, but I'll remember that moment that happened in that game, and that was crazy.
Right.
Yeah. That's very important. If there's no narrative whatsoever, then I'm not engaged in the game whatsoever. And won't remember it later.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had a list that will probably be published on the channel before this airs.
Yeah.
So we talk about it at great length there.
There we go. Moving on. The next one is conflict, and that is player versus player. So that could be a little bit of that competitiveness, but not necessarily. Because there can be direct player conflict, which me and you are trying to beat each other up or something.
Right.
But there can also be like very passive conflict.
Generally, this isn't a good selling point for me in a game at all. Like,
No.
I don't enjoy a game where we're just head-to-head, first player who whatever wins.
Yeah.
But a game like Cthulhu Realms,
Yeah.
which makes it kind of funny and, you know, campy almost,
Yeah.
I can do that kind of head-to-head confrontation.
Yeah. It's funny how much like the artwork and the kind of silliness of the game with a Cthulhu directly confrontational type game, the silliness can almost dull it down to where it's just fun.
Right.
Yeah. And silly.
Yeah, you don't take it as seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this is definitely one of the lower ones, at least for the direct conflict. There's not a lot that we enjoy, but indirect kind of passive conflict, or that competitiveness where it's not necessarily me and you trying to beat on each other, but me and you and which of us can beat the game better. That's where we seem to be drawn into games more and get engaged. Yeah. And then how difficult are the choices? That's a big thing. And what is going to be the payoff of those choices?
Right.
If you have a very difficult choice with a really good payoff, especially if both choices will lead to potential big payoffs and which one's going to be the better one, that is really important in a game. Yeah. I think that's it.
You didn't say anything about components and artwork.
Oh, right. Components and artwork.
But I'm thinking it's nice when your game has beautiful art and great components.
Yep.
But sometimes it doesn't matter how good those components are or how good the art is.
Yeah.
If some of the things on this list aren't meshing well together, it's probably not going to make me love the game.
That's right.
Just because it's beautiful, cute, or pretty.
Components and artwork can enhance a game experience, but they can't make it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of sick, because I'm all about the cuteness.
Yeah.
But I know that it's not everything.
It's good to know. So there are a whole lot of elements of a game, and our kind of really quick little comments on how much they help us get engaged in the game. Yeah, anything we missed, throw in the comments below. Which elements of a game engage you the most, throw it in the comments below. And just in general, if you are getting heavily involved into board gaming, thinking about this kind of stuff, you don't have to necessarily make an exhaustive list and rate them 1 to 10 or anything silly like that.
No, it's only because we got philosophical about it.
Yeah, but exploring the idea of what is it about these games that make it good for me. Find your favorite game.
Yeah, do your top 5.
Yeah, what engages you about those games?
Yeah, and then look for games that have those same qualities.
Yeah, and to take it on a little bit more of a tangent, if you can find reviewers who share the same kind of these are important elements that engage me in a game, those are the reviewers whose opinions you should probably pay more attention to.
Yep.
Or even the reverse.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. That was a good waxing philosophical.
Right, I think it's shiny.
Right on. Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you in the next video.
Laters.